I do because I actually talked to him that hi the hello everyone, this is Kevin Chandra, aka the Arching Rock, who formerly known as the Raging Troller. Which social media that I actually changed it? Just a few bit on YouTube, on Instagram, on Wattpad, but not on Storyfire because I really think I'm done with that for now. And this is actually something that I've actually done for the second time. I mean, the second time privately. So the thing is that if you actually think about like gyms or anything like that, this actually has to be done by architecture or anything. And in my opinion, Bardales is definitely one of the best out there because it's not because it's too aesthetic, but in fact it's actually quite the opposite. It's actually quite simple, and because it's so simple that it can be actually followed by anyone of what's going on or anything. And this art sector is actually located in Ecuador, and it's not exactly located in a city. From the looks of it, we'll get to that once we get into it. And this is actually not originally rebuilt from scratch. It's actually renovated in order to make sure that it's gonna be good for the social gatherings. Also, speaking of recording in second time privately, it's actually meant that I did make the commentary first, but it's gonna be a really long one, and so I finally decided that I'm going to gather all the points that I need to make for you guys in order to make sure that you can actually come across as what I know from this building, and I'm going to explain why I actually love it. Okay, so Bardales Urban Training Center is actually done by the architects, which is called Natura Futura Architectura, which is the language in Ecuador, which is an area of 650 meters square. And sometimes I kept forgetting that this building was actually really new. It's like in 2020, which is kind of unfortunate because 2020 was the year of pandemic, and it's gonna be real hard for visitors. But I don't know, maybe there could be a lot of more visitors in there. I never heard anything about from Bardales aside from Art Daily, which is definitely something of an article, not the news, but we might get that one. And I could be copy pasting this, but I'll prefer to actually credit it to the Art Daily article itself and the writer by saying that this was owned by two people, Maria and Carlos, a young entrepreneurial couple from Babahoyo who owns a small gym, and decided to take it the next step after several years of activity. This renovation was definitely done with what probably works and what probably didn't work, and they try to make it and to try to take like what works, in my opinion. That's what happened in order to make it a lot better. So that's probably one of them. So they propose to use part of existing infrastructure of their current one-story home. Okay, so it was a one-story home. It's gonna be converted into four. As a strategy to save costs, two actions were carried out in the first place. Partition beam and columns initially designed for a four-story building were reused, transforming into a physical training center. And secondly, a border was established where the design and construction management of the project were exchanged for access to the gym for a defined time to the architecture team. In this way, the idea that the city is developed from decisions, agreements, and exchange and ventures of each inhabitant is vindicated. So notice them. So yeah, I'm definitely doing a reading out of this, but I'm not gonna be doing a lot of that, I promise. But so at least we know exactly what the background is, because I'm not someone who's probably just gonna memorize background or something, because that's not exactly what I'm gonna do here. As you can see here, these are the floor plans. Like there are 4 floors as mentioned in the previous slide, and then there's actually something that has to be noticed.
This.
There has to be a circulation in order to make it work. That's what I think it was happening. And the purpose of this circulation is, of course, not everyone's gonna be walking out like, oh, we might be having this. I may not be the one to talk because I'm not exactly the best one in there, but I really do think that the circulation must be important for people to pass through so they can get through each equipment, for example, or a certain area that might. And this is how it's gonna look like, because there's actually such thing as no buildings have of everything public or everything private. I don't think there's such thing. This is just what I think it is. There's a public area, the semi-public, and toilet. I did think that I'm gonna make it private because the toilet is supposed to be private, but there are not exactly a lot of other things which is actually private. So I do think I'm just gonna write toilet. Although I do think that now that I look at it again, it's actually something like there's a bathroom in there, because I just almost forgotten. I had almost forgotten. Like if you go to the gym, you need to make sure that you are actually getting clean once you get off the place or anything like that. And so that's definitely how the area works. And this is how it's gonna look like from the section, from the perspective section, in order to make it a lot easier for people to see. As you can see, there's the first, second, third, fourth floor, and we're gonna get to that one in a second. And this is how it's gonna look like if I were to take the same coloring area all the way to every areas in there, except for the outside, because we all know that the outside is usually public. So it's time for us to get into a deeper one. This is where I think what is happening around here. I mean, not exactly what's happening, but what they do. So the red one is actually more of a weightlifting. Unfortunately, there are no images for the first or second floor that involves the weightlifting, but I can assure you something. If you actually see on the first floor, it's actually looking probably more like a machine. I just noticed that there's a treadmill over there, but we don't really talk much about that sometimes. But the thing is, there are definitely machines. There are definitely stuff for beginners or anything. Well, if you can actually see the first image of where someone is doing a leg press, I don't mean it's actually that extreme, but the machine is actually where people use them in order to make it easier, because sometimes there could be people who doesn't really know what they're doing, what they should be doing for the exercises. So I'm assuming that this is the first floor is going to be for people who I think needs help with what they want to do and might give some ideas. And on the second floor, and on the second image, which is on the bottom, is actually for the weightlifting. Like you can see a bench press right here. It's just one example. There could be like a squat rack. There could be a lot of other things involving barbell and maybe even dumbbell. But the point is that this is actually where people do know what might work and what they should be doing. That's probably what I think is gonna be. And the second one is gonna be where the cardio takes place. Well, the cardio also takes place in the first floor, but it's quite minor if you think about it. But I think it's a lot more dominant for machine cardio, by the way, to take place on the second and the third floor. So the cardio on the second and third floor are not really that much, I think. Like there's for the floor plan, there are treadmills and there's stationary bike. Although the image doesn't show the treadmill, because I think that's the floor plan was used to be the purpose of idea of where they should be put or whatever it is. But I do think that if they want to change the setting, they can put the treadmill just so it can match the floor plan or anything that actually fits the purpose. And it's time for us to get into the yellow that I highlighted, which is on the third and fourth floor. That is not a machine cardio. But there is one question that I actually do have which is a bit confusing, because the black one is actually, you can, from the image right there, you can definitely see a stage. So the stage is usually, in my opinion, might be a place where the instructor was standing and he or she is going to perform whatever you're doing. And everyone else around that place is definitely going to follow everything. And from the floor plan, it might look fine. Like everyone is doing yoga or anything related to it. And that might be the case, except this section of the perspective doesn't say the same thing, because if you can actually see here, it's not exactly as free and empty as the above picture right here. It might be doing something like a pull-up, or it's something like hanging leg raises, like anything with a bar. It might have what they could do, or I don't know what it is. And how did that happen? I think it has something to do with, like in the same case of how the treadmill was there in the finalized real version of it. I think the same thing could be said about the in the bar. I'm gonna call it the bars because I cannot call it pull-up bar. I want to call it pull-up bar, but it doesn't look like it. But it's not there anyway on the image. So I'm assuming that they could have done that, but it didn't happen. On the fourth floor, it's actually a whole lot easier to figure out because this is where we know that we can do boxing and we can do yoga, although we don't actually have the clear. I couldn't find a clear picture of a boxing ring because on the floor plan you can actually see the boxing ring right here. And you can also see that there's actually ropes for the boxing ring that is. But we know that this is area for boxing, and if we're gonna remove the heavy bag, they're gonna be doing some yoga, or maybe they can be doing anything in this place. I have no idea what the scheduling is, but the most confirmed are yoga and boxing. That's what I know. Although I'm still wondering though, how in the world did they move the heavy bags? Like how heavy are they? Are they light or are they like super heavy? I mean, obviously not as heavy as what Rocky Marshall was punching, is 300 pounds, but we don't talk about that. So yeah, now we know exactly what's going on for what they're doing. So this is actually to show us some. The first floor is most likely machine and body weight. I think is what's going on. The machine also includes treadmill, right? And the second floor is involving a lot more free weights, weightlifting, and also cardio. And the third floor involves like, obviously there's a machine, cardio, stationary bike. Although what's making more questionable is that it could be body weight or yoga or anything. The body weight, which is, I mean, it equals pull-up as well because you can see like there's a bar in there, which is a bit more confusing. And we know that the fourth floor is obviously for boxing dominantly and yoga if they want to do the activities over there. I think it's worth mentioning that not only how the places actually works, but we also know like how they should be going to the place, how they store their stuffs or anything. And surprisingly, since there are no lockers, it's gonna be put under the stairs. These stairs right here are only exclusive to the floor 1 and 2. As you can see, piso, I think it's said piso, I don't know the language yet. It's actually used to put there with different size, different. It depends on the needs of the people. Sometimes people might be bringing us a small thing. Sometimes people might be bringing like so many huge things or something like that. And it does depend on everything. So I think it might fit, but since it's so positioned stationary, we don't exactly know what's happening. But it's a whole lot better than everything. So many lockers too big and not enough for a lot of people. I think it's better this way. This is actually quite accommodating, right? Which is a plus. And so the second and the third floor is actually quite unique. Am I talking about the window? I'll do that in a second, but this time I'm talking about something else. So as you can see on the picture right here, it's enough to say that the second and third floor people can communicate despite the different floors. And it worked, and it's actually really good because there's no need for like privacy for the workouts because people can do workouts anywhere, and if they need to communicate at some point, they can be able to talk with each other. That's probably one thing that I really like about this. But speaking of that, since we are looking at the windows from the inside, it's time to look from the outside. So the windows right here is actually not entirely closed. As you can see, I mean, even if it is closed entirely, sometimes in the image on the below, but you can still see what's going on the inside because working out is not exactly private. They can do anything in there. There's no need for privacy, as I mentioned before. And there's another thing that you can see. This is actually a diagram from the same section. And yeah, this is what I'm talking about. If the air is about to enter the windows, they can be able to. It might be limited, but I but it's actually better because sometimes people might need like limited amount of air, limited amount of rains, limited amount of lights, or if they need more of them, they can just open it. And this is how it looks like from the open and close. Like you can see that despite being entirely closed, you can see the activity, just limiting, but you can still see it. And this section right here also noted that this is actually perfect to show that every floor has probably different functions of sports. Although the first floor is kind of a bit off because you don't really see the weightlifting, the free weights, by the way, on the first floor, but it's actually more on the second floor. But I think this section being drawn is for the purpose of having something that could be used with or anything. And I actually noticed, like, if you actually see right here from the diagram, the sun right here is actually facing to the same way as the wind and the rains. I mean, I'm not saying that the rains and the wind will be in that direction all the time, and I might as well say the same about the sun as well. But there's one thing that you need to think about. You see where the shadows are heading, right? And this might help you. I think this is a very good reason because when you see that the windows are heading are like this, not to their sides, it just implies really strongly that this place right here is in very serious needs of closing the places or anything right there. I think that's what happened. Like, if you guys have more detailed explanation for this, feel free to comment below. Yep, there is no sign of north direction anywhere in the floor plans. This is why I was actually talking. This is why I was pointing this one out. And the surrounding is actually, I might say that the surrounding is actually something quite interesting because I did mention that it's not in the city necessarily. It does have surrounding buildings with certain places. For example, there could be an old store or it could be an old house. Not that old though, not that ancient, but it might be built for a few years and it might be breaking down at some point or another. And I do think that this gym could be a landmark for the city. This is another look, and we can actually grasp the left side of the left side of the building. Wow, what's in there? As you can see, there are actually another four-store buildings. I don't know what it is. I think it's more like a rent places or anything right there because it does look like it in where I usually look at things. And you can actually get a better picture of how the surrounding looks like by having this kind of perspective right here. So you can actually see that there's actually a lot of buildings that are not too different, I think, in terms of height, and there are even some antennas in there. So you can definitely see like it's from far away. How does it look like? Also, the trees, like you can actually see that how far it is from the tree. I mean, I don't guarantee that you can actually see it properly, but it's just a little bit of sight that I should be giving you guys. And speaking of surrounding from the back, since you are like maybe you might not be able to see from what's in the back of the building. Not really. You can probably see it like this. You can definitely see like there are probably houses in there. Like they're not too close. They're not closing in from the places right now. Like they actually are willing to be open. Like, okay, this is what's happening. We can see these buildings right here. But the thing is that I just noticed, is there like a window which is the same as the front elevation? Because if it doesn't, like this right here. Like if the sun was, let's assume that this, I don't know if this is in the morning or the evening, but wherever it is, if the shadow was heading this way, I don't think it's unreasonable to have the shadow surrounding on the opposite side of it. And what I'm saying is like there's no reason why the sun will not be in there. And now that I look at it, the lighting is over there. I don't know if it's gonna blind people or anything. I think that's a demerit for people who are in that place. I have no idea if this is in the evening or the morning, like I said before. And yeah, in case you guys didn't know where I was talking about this is actually the stair for every floor. Yes, every floor. So I'm only including the first one because I know that you guys might have the idea of where it's supposed to be. Although I do think that this picture was taken in the second floor because you can see like the small barbell and the placement in there. I mean, I don't think this is actually on the third floor or the fourth floor as well. And not on the first floor because you can see the bathroom in that place. Well, you cannot end the presentation or the breakdown without saying anything about the materials. So Bardales was developed with limited resources, where both technical and material solutions were designed as it became available. It can be said that the limitation was an important source of creativity to design with what is necessary. In this way, local labor, materials from the region, and a system of hybrid structures. I did think about hybrid, yeah, between wood, concrete, and metal were included, allowing us to adjust to the needs. That was my mouth. Between wood, concrete, and metal were included, allowing us to adjust to the needs and possibilities. This was written in Art Daily, which is actually probably one of the things as well because even though the shape is not that complicated, but it flows so well with everything else because I do think that's the most important part. Like you don't want to be too different from the places out there. Like you want to flow with the places and use the materials that are available because I'm pretty sure that a lot of materials in there are also there too. And well, and what I like it even more is that it is not necessarily glamorous, but I don't like the gym that's too glamorous. Like I like old, like in my opinion, going to like old places as well, and probably like darker colors, like in the nature. I think that's actually one of the best things as well. And adding the plants in there to make it look like they're like the woods going with the trees. I think that's another plus for me. So, well, there you go. That's exactly how Bardales Gym actually is. You know, the reason why I actually make the commentary. This is the second time I did the commentary. This the reason why I made the first one back then, but I didn't want to use it because I actually talked to Troy about this. Troy, aka Rezzeract. If you want to watch me doing interview with him, you can actually click on the link below. Also, watch his fight. Another link below. So I actually asked Troy about the gym back then, and it's not in the interview, it's actually in the chat. And he said that it might depend, like it could be a boxing gym, it could be a CrossFitter gym, it could be a weightlifting gym or anything right there. And there's another thing that he actually mentioned, like there could be hybrid kind of gyms. And this right here actually gave me the idea of the Bardales. And since he loved it so much, just like I do, I feel like I should be doing this a second time. And I'm glad that I actually retake this because if I didn't think about this for now, I might really screw up and it's gonna be probably like a 30-minute, believe me, 30 minutes. I was talking about this because I wasn't specific about what I want to talk about. So I do think that Bardales is actually a very simple place to work out, but at the same time, because you know exactly what to do in there. Like for example, you want to do weightlifting. Oh, it's right there, second floor. You want to do boxing, fourth floor. You want to do yoga, third or fourth floor. You want to do anything where you don't know where to start, let's go with the first floor. Or you want to do like a treadmill, first and second floor, anything. It's actually easy to find because it's so narrow, but it's also a really long circulation. All you have to do is just walk straight up and you'll be able to find it, and that's actually why I like it. Also, be able to do cardio in there without the necessary thing of like a jogging track in there. I mean, you can probably do jogging outside to make it harder for the very least, but I do think that this is one of the best gym out there, and one of the smallest one out there. Although I couldn't say the smallest because there's another smaller gym out there. Although speaking of like not the smallest gym, I'm gonna be breaking up another gym which is located in China, with the interior being literally white. And in all honesty, I do find it good at first, but there's something off with it. But I'm gonna be talking in the next video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and and put on notification. I hope you guys and I have a nice day. If you guys are working out, happy training. If you guys are on college, good luck on your study. And if you guys are on your internship for architecture or anything, whatever it is, good luck on your internship. I hope you guys have a nice day. I'll see you later.